afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe, from Cape Cod to Cancun, from Vegas to the Vatican. I am your host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, the Breakfast Bankroll, and it's Friday, one of our favorite times of the week. We get to go across the border and talk some NHL, some CFL, and whatever is on the docket for sure. Andrew Mcinnis, and we have him here today every Friday, hopefully. So without further ado, my man Andrew, what is up, my brother?
Jeff, happy Friday. How are you?
Happy Friday. You know, I talked earlier this week, this time of year reminds me of March Madness into the start of MLB, and then 2 weeks later, Augusta and the Masters.
Mm-hmm.
And now what we have is MLB playoffs, NFL, NCAAF. You're about to start the NHL. I mean, can you get a better time of season, Andrew?
There's no shortage of action, that's for sure. There's no shortage of action. So this is the Breakfast Bankroll. We're trying to manage our bankrolls now, especially with the amount of events going on. Even you mix in the UFC, lots of great fights coming up. We got a card tomorrow. So much going on. Like you said, it reminds me of that feeling almost like you said, and in the other part of the year where it's, things are getting intense with playoffs and then golf events are coming. But no, it's exciting. And what's funny is, I know some people that are the complete opposite, Jeff, but I found, and I don't want to jinx myself, so knock on wood here, but I found that I've actually had my most success the more events and sports that are going on. And I really think it's just because I narrow in on a spot or two each night and one, this sport, that sport, and I'm not getting too heavily involved across the board. Whereas if, let's say, NHL was the only sport going on, I might have a little more sprinkles around the board, if you know what I mean. So I kind of actually like this time of year. You keep it very simple. You find your spots you like in each sport, and you try and get the winners that way. Where I think if sometimes where if there's just one sport going on, I might be a little more high volume.
And that's a great point, because I think the tendency is if it's a short menu, a lot of people try to force the action. Monday night football, Thursday night football, short cards, and you almost overlook. Study long, study wrong is a saying that we like to use. But you are 100% correct. It is the more action you have, the easier it is for the books, Vegas, to miss a few spots and being the guy that you are, and like us here at ECSI and all the experts and professionals, we're able to find the soft spots that you're talking about.
Definitely, and I'm looking forward to that, especially, I was saying we had our prop show earlier today, and I was talking with them about how, they think that they do better with props earlier on in the season, and my, history and data has showed for me, results-wise, that I've done way better at the end of the year. And I also think that part of that has to do with having other sports going on. But I think it's also just a matter of, seeing how things have gone versus how some people kind of get that prep work before the season starts. Not that I'm not prepping before the season, but it's more so just that I'm more of a visual learner. I want to see what's going on this year. And I find that our watch time is obviously up, right? Like, I don't know about you, but like, I know you have a family as well. Like, I've got a girlfriend, and you got to spend time with your loved ones, but you're watching a lot of games, college football, NFL, NHL, UFC, CFL, like, there's always something to watch. And I find that when that's the case, obviously you and I both enjoy sports, love sports. There's no denying it. But when you're watching, you're working, like you're studying and taking things into account. It's not as much of just a casual sports fan. You're not just watching games. When you're watching, tuning in around each sport, you're jotting a few things down. You're making sure, this QB's not getting his reads. So I like that. It's fun.
All right. It's Friday. It's NHL preseason wrapping up. The regular season starts next week. Tell everyone watching and listening what you've seen in the preseason, but give us maybe a peek towards some of the futures or anything that you're seeing that you might be able to guide the novice NHL guy looking maybe for hey, listen, I don't play every day, but let them hold on to a future or two so they get a skin in the game.
Yeah, so preseason, it's I think I held on to it longer than I should have this year. I've had a lot of success over the past couple years in the NHL preseason. I think I gave you guys a winner last week on the show. But once teams start to get back to their full lineups, or mainly their full lineups, like we're seeing the past couple of days, because last night and today, last couple of days of the preseason with the league starting up next Tuesday. It's really easy to find number one home team spots. Teams always try and win at home in the preseason in front of their fans, and they always usually play better spots or better rosters. But looking at the prospect list and doing that, it was pretty good as far as the NHL preseason went. Looking at which teams have the more talented, prospects. And Detroit was a really good example of that, actually, because they're a team, I think, Jeff, this year is going to have a lot of great underdog bets. We're going to make some money betting on Detroit as underdogs. We're going to make some money betting on New Jersey as underdogs. We're going to make some money betting on the Ottawa Senators as underdogs this year. And it was cool for me in the preseason, while I was looking for my bets, to watch some games I might not have had action on, but just to see how serious I can take some of these younger teams and teams with high prospect lists. And Detroit's one to circle. I'm certainly not joking around when I say I believe they're going to cash not just one, but I think multiple, in the range of plus 250s or plus 220s this year. There are going to be some great spots for them and a lot of younger guys in their team that's going to fight for spots. But look, one thing I'll say in the NHL that I don't always say, everybody loves to hit that big plus money ticket, right? And I've talked with you on the show about how in the CFL, I have no problem with laying a money line. And there's been one or two I've given out on this show that haven't hit. And there's been one or two that have, blown the other team out. But in the NHL especially, I don't recommend people laying too big of numbers on divisions to make the playoffs or anything like that. Certain spots I would, like the Carolina Hurricanes, I saw they were only like minus 160 or 70 to make the playoffs. To me, that's a play. They're very deep. They have scoring. They have toughness. They just got a new goaltender. Carolina to make the playoffs is a good one, but I wanted to look at, let's see, I'm trying to find these divisions here. There we go. Conference futures. Let's see. Division futures. Here we go. We're going to look at some division futures, and I think that Vancouver are a great team. You can bet them to make the playoffs. I believe it's like plus 170 or something like that, looking at the FanDuel Sportsbook right now. But right now, their division, everyone seems to think it's top heavy, and there's just too much talent with Colorado and Vegas and those teams. But first of all, Colorado is actually going to have lots of issues, I think, more than people might think. And Nathan McKinnon's from my area. I'm cheering him on. I want him to do well. I think he's incredibly talented. Mikko Rantanen's great. They've got a young prospect core. But because of paying their players, they lost their goaltender. Now they have Darcy Kemper in goal for them now. We'll see how he can play. He has some history, Jeff, of being injury prone. I hate even saying that about players because it feels like a personal attack on them. But it's true. He's kind of injury prone. And I feel like they're going to be a big over team, the Avalanche, this year. And I feel like I'm worried about them. I'll make it clear. I'm not saying they aren't going to be a good team and do really well. I'm saying I don't warrant them being minus 220 to get the job done. So I want to look at Minnesota Wild at plus 700. I see the Central Division 2021-2022 winner. This is at the FanDuel Sportsbook. Minnesota Wild at plus 700. Colorado is minus 220 to win that division. And that, to me, that's just ridiculous. I mean, they might win it, but if you're going to get plus 700, I guarantee you 20 games in, that number is not where it is. Here's the one I wanted to talk about. I was getting a little bit confused here. Vancouver Canucks plus 2,000 to win their division. Looking at their division, Pacific Division, Vegas Golden Knights, Edmonton Oilers, Calgary Flames, the brand new Seattle Kraken, the Canucks, and the Kings. And then when you go down the list, you get into the Sharks and the Ducks, two teams that have no shot of winning that division. But I'm curious to get your thoughts on this as well. But the Vegas Golden Knights, I think, are now going to just be a normal team. Their big story in their first year, their inaugural season was amazing. And, anybody listening to this that knows me might call me a bit biased here, but you saw what the Montreal Canadiens were able to do to them in the playoffs last year. And it came down to a lot of great defense from the Habs. But what I saw was that they had less depth than I thought they really did. Pacioretty's great. Mark Stone's great. And they had some great depth. Don't get me wrong, some size. We can't forget how great Alex Tuch was for them. But now Fleury's gone. The net belongs to Robin Lehner. I just don't think this team belongs to be minus 200 to win their division. Then Edmonton, they made a few changes, absolutely, but I still don't know how much I trust their goaltending with Smith and Koskinen. That's one thing. I feel like so many talented teams, you either have goal scoring or you have goaltending, and Edmonton still doesn't really have that. They picked up some defensemen, but I still don't warrant them being plus 500. Calgary, that's the biggest mystery to me, Jeff. In the NHL right now, they're going to be horrible. They're not going to be good. They're not going to score. They're weak. They're a soft team. This is a team that I picture in 1 or 2 years blowing things up, but their team is, as a GM, you're too scared to do that after you've built a team because you don't want to start from zero and you don't want to start from scratch. But I look at this team and I see, guys that are afraid to get hit, guys that will go missing for a couple of games without scoring. Well, look at Vancouver. They have a great mix of vets, of youth, of goal scoring ability. They just signed Quinn Hughes to a huge deal. They have great goaltending. So at plus 2,000 for them to win their division, I think it was like plus 175 to make the playoffs. Vancouver is one of my favorite plays as far as the future market goes.
I call it the Wild Wild West. And of course, you look at the Avs, you look at all the firepower, the amazing run that they had last year, and then just in a blink of an eye, just lose 4 straight to the Knights. And we go out to Vegas a handful of times a year. We try to get it to a game or two. It's electric. But I think you nailed it, is the fact that the opening, their first year, their inaugural year, they're in the Cup. And I think everyone just expects that. And it's hard to win in T-Mobile. We understand that. So surfing around out west, it's a minefield. It's hard to get your mind away from those two teams. Yeah. They're always front and center. The intriguing one that you brought up to me, obviously, is Edmonton. They have McDavid. They're just offensively, they're just so fun to watch. And like you said, defensively / goalie, it's great to score 5, but when you're giving up 6, what's the matter? It sounds like the Maple Leafs, the same exact thing. 7-6. You got the Maple Leafs today, and you're all fired up because they're winning 3-0 at the end of 1. You go to the gym, you come back an hour and a half later, and they're down 4-3.
Yeah. And the thing is, I'll say about the Oilers too. Jesse Puljujarvi is a player that I thought was going to break out 2 years ago. He had a really good preseason. He actually went over to Europe during one of the years. I think it was 2 years ago or last year. And 2 years ago. And now he's back. I expect big things out of him. But, when you pay your big players that much money, you need to be able to find some ways to score elsewhere. And I think that, as far as I'm concerned, if we're comparing the Leafs and the Oilers, the Oilers probably have more of that depth of scoring. But I feel like the extra, like if we're looking at top 4 scorers, I'd give it to the Leafs. But we're looking at top 6, I probably would give it to the Oilers. So they're going to be a big over team this year. But scanning through some of these divisions, I want to look at to make the playoff odds. Those are the ones I really want to look at. But I'm trying to find them right now. But because those ones are interesting. I mentioned about laying juice. Those are the ones that I actually have no problem really laying some chalk with, especially if we're going to be putting down a future. A lot of people I hear on the radio for sports gaming, they always say, like, if I'm going to lay down a future, I want to make sure I'm getting a good return. I've never really understood that. Like, who cares? You know what I mean? Like, if I'm going to lay down a future, I want to win. Like, I don't understand. Like, I would lay down a future on, certain teams to win a playoff series or certain teams to do well. I get it. It's a long-term thing, and people talk about sports betting being a long-term investment, as your company's name is investors, but this is literally an investment, a single time investment. It's not like you're making 25 futures, so the juice isn't going to kill you. So if I'm making just a handful of futures, I don't mind saying the Carolina Hurricanes are going to make the playoffs, so I'm going to bet that minus 175 because it doesn't matter to me, because I feel that confident about it. Now, if you do like 6 or 7 of those and you lose 3 or 4, then the juice hits you. What are your thoughts on that? Do you disagree with me or agree?
No, I agree with you. What I find hard for some people is the fact that, you have to explain to them you're tying up your money for 6 months. And so the hardest thing for someone to do is if they got, like, let's say they have an online account and they have a $2,000 credit limit. Well, if you have 5, 6 of these, futures that you have that you're talking about in the NHL, and next thing you know, they reach out to you and say, hey, by the way, I know we got a lot of action going on here, but, my account's short $800. So you need to have a good rapport with whoever you're using. Say, hey, can I separate and have another account for my futures market?
Yes.
And that always helps. I have to ask you, I really want to ask you 2 more questions here.
Okay.
What's your thoughts on the Blackhawks? Are they still light years away, or is the price getting close where it's not too crazy?
No, I don't think it's too crazy. I think the biggest thing for them, I always said, which I think people actually disagree with me about this too, was that I thought that if Kane and the key guys for them weren't scoring, they weren't winning games. And when I think about when I was growing up, when the Blackhawks were having so much success and when they won their cup, it was because they had that depth and they had great goaltending with Crawford, and defensemen were solid. But yeah, I mean, picking up Marc-Andre is huge for them. This is a team that struggled at the goaltending position for several years. Last year, they had some pretty good goaltending, but let's be honest, the first period over streak with them, the full game over streak with them was definitely a thing. Picking up some key guys on defense, looking at Jones and stuff, I think they're going to be good. And a guy that I just drafted in my fantasy team last night, Kubalik, he's awesome. He's a young guy. He's exciting. Let's see. Yes, plus 100 for them to make the playoffs, the Chicago Blackhawks. Not too bad of a price there for them. I found that list there, and I wanted to get the official price on this for the Vancouver Canucks. Yeah, plus 174 at FanDuel Sportsbook for them to make the playoffs. Seattle Kraken plus 100 to miss the playoffs. Kind of interesting bet there, as I feel like a lot of people are going to think that, oh yeah, inaugural team again with Vegas, like you mentioned. So interesting to see what happens there. But are there any that stick out for you to make or miss the playoffs? Because like Calgary, for me, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. That's going to be a big bet for me at minus 102. It's what I find at FanDuel.
No, I was actually agreeing with a lot of your plays that you were saying, and I was trying to run through my notes as well here, and I think you're spot on. The one team that I really liked to make the playoffs this year was the Blackhawks, and I was shopping around for numbers there at the plus 100. And obviously, I have to ask you this, seeing that I'm 45 minutes to an hour from the Garden, give us your thought process on the Habs, and then the Habs versus the Bruins. And then obviously yesterday, I think it was just the day before, the Carey Price story.
Sorry, I'm not sure if you could hear that. My dog's going crazy right now.
See?
It happens to all of us. Can you hear that?
Baby.
I'm sorry. But
no,
look, as far as the Habs go, injuries, I'm so sorry about that. Shea Weber being out, that's a factor. Obviously, that's huge for them. Joel Edmondson is now announced out. That's something that's worrisome for me. So the funny thing is about the Habs, they're going to be an over team. they're going to be a huge over team this year, and they're an under team for a long time. I mean, when's the last time that you could say that they're an over team? And now they've got scoring with Suzuki, Caulfield. I think Dvorak's going to be huge for them. People are saying that we got rid of Deneau, who I loved as a great defensive guy, but getting rid of him, no more KK, Jesperi Kotkaniemi. But let's be honest, we're replacing them with goal scorers. I mean, we got Mike Hoffman now. There's going to be a team that's going to be more than capable of scoring goals, but I worry about them defensively. As far as Carey Price goes, I'll reiterate a lot of things that Gallagher said in the post game last night of their game against Ottawa. It goes to really show that it could be affecting anybody. We all go through things, and I guess I look up to the guy. I think Carey Price is a really, really nice person. The most cocky type thing you'll get out of him is like a Patrick Waugh wink in the playoffs, which is just hilarious. Like he doesn't really celebrate too much. He's not too high or too low. And, looking at what he's done for the franchise, for the fans. Also, it was just great to see the reaction from the community. Not that I expected anybody to, have anything bad to say, Jeff, but it was cool to see, how much everybody embraced it and just wished him the best, especially after what Jonathan Drouin went through. So, I just wish him the best. I hope he's back at some point. But, from a hockey and betting standpoint, I have a lot of faith in the Maritime or Jake Allen to hold things down. So nice to have that goalie tandem. As far as like money goes and like salary and stuff like that, I find it kind of weird because this happened last year, obviously different circumstances, but let's not forget Jake Allen played way more games than he thought he was going to play last year. Like he played more than half the games, and then price goes down. Obviously you can't predict injury, but to me, it's like, if I'm Jake Allen, I want to play, but I'm thinking to myself like, man, I came to this team thinking I'd be a backup for Pricer, like, playing every couple games. And now I turned into the starting goalie, and this guy's making $10 million. I want to make it clear, I'm not saying anything about him this year. Obviously it's a different reason, but he's had some injury problems and stuff like that. But Boston Bruins, I good friend of mine, or somebody I've made a good relationship with, Jimmy Murphy, who I'll be working with every day on YouTube, talking hockey and hockey betting. He writes for BostonHockeyNow.com. Great reporter for the Bruins. And I love reading his stuff because, like we always say, you can read from NHL.com, you can read from, ESPN, but getting those beat writers, the guys that cover the teams, that's where you get the info. And he's honest. He's brutally honest. Like he'll crap on the Bruins and he'll say good things about them. And that's the kind of guy you want, just like how you bet against the Patriots a couple weeks ago. Earn my respect. And, it sounds like, I think he's impressed with the goaltending, which is nice. We don't really know about Tuukka Rask, but Swayman's been good. And defense will be the big thing. McAvoy take a big step, and some of these guys play super well. But I know I kind of sound repetitive saying this, but it's a huge thing for me, and it's why I love the Hurricanes and the Islanders and teams like that in St. Louis. We have to see if they can get goals from lines besides the big three, Pasta, Marchand, Bergeron. Those guys are getting a little bit up in age, maybe not Pasta, but can the second and third lines produce? Because I remember the big bad Bruins even 3 or 4 years ago going up against the Leafs, and I told all my Leaf friends, you guys only have a few players, and they were like, no, we have depth. And think about it, those big games the Bruins beat the Leafs, it wasn't even those 3 guys for the Bruins scoring the goals. It was Krejci and those guys. So that's the big question. How do you feel about the depth of scoring you have with the Bees this year?
You just nailed it all in a nutshell. And I'll tell you this, the locals, I polled a handful myself. And because, the locals, poo-pooing the Red Sox, they didn't want to see them make the playoffs. Well, it doesn't matter. They're not going any far. They're not going far. And then, they make it. They beat the Yankees. And now, of course, they're facing the Rays, who were the American League champs last year. Okay. If you ask the real true Bruin fans, what do you expect this year? I expect to be in the playoffs. I expect to win the first round, and I expect to lose the second round. Okay. And that's from diehard Bruin guys. They think, obviously, when you ask them, it's the Leafs. We know what the Leafs do in the first round. Ask them about the Habs. They know they're not better than Tampa Bay.
Mm-hmm.
And then I asked them a serious question. Well, are you better than the Islanders? And what you just said is 100%. That top line is great in the regular season. Come the playoffs, as each round gets further, where are they?
Mm-hmm.
And then you talk about the defense. It's McAvoy and who? And as I flipped to them, I says, well, this is the real big thing this year. You've blamed Rask every year. You're not going to have that to fall on.
I hate that too. I'm a big Rask guy.
100%. They blame him for leaving the bubble 2 years ago. Last year he was playing hurt, and they didn't want to bring Swayman in. They asked everyone in the locker room, who do you want behind the net, a hurt Rask or Swayman? They wanted Rask. And so I just think it's bad. And listen, you're talking to Bobby Orr here. That was my first true love in sports and the Bruins when he beat the Blues and he was flying through the air. That was my into hockey and Boston. Then I went to Ray Bork. Now we are where we are. But it's the local fans. And listen, if anyone knows about local fans, obviously you do. And the thing that kills me is the bandwagon, the jumping on and off, and the fair weather fans. Yeah. That's what kills me the most.
Yeah, it should be interesting for them. And also one thing we have to mention as well, which we already kind of have a little bit, is that the divisions are back. The regular divisions. You kind of touched on it there. Here in Canada, I'll tell you, I'm happy to have these teams not playing 3-game series against each other, and for the Habs to be playing the Leafs every couple of days and then going out west. One thing people didn't realize is that the Canadian teams, geographically, we're traveling a hell of a lot further. As far as a betting standpoint, there were way more travel bet on spots for Canadians than there were for the American teams, because it's still a West Coast road trip. Like these guys, if you're in Montreal and you're traveling out, to Edmonton, Vancouver, Calgary for the weekend, that's not just a trip down the road. That's a big road trip, right? They're getting a West Coast road trip during their Canadian bubble division, which we won't have that anymore. We're going to have West Coast road trips, but they're going to be a lot more, 1 hour long, hour and a half long, flights. So it's going to be interesting to see how they stack up. Obviously, I think there's lots of pressure on the Habs, and people are calling them a fluke and stuff. I hear it all the time, and it's just so awesome because everybody I work with and so many people I know, they're Leaf guys, and it's just, what can anybody say to me anymore? What is there to really say? I mean, okay, yeah, John Tavares got hurt. Okay, sure, use that as an excuse. Mark Scheifele, injury. He wouldn't have stopped us sweeping them 4-0. Maybe that series would have ended 4-1 or 4-2. The fact of the matter is, nobody could say anything after we beat the Jets 4-0, and then we beat, the Vegas Golden Knights. So it'll be interesting, but I think the physicality of the Bruins is my favorite thing, and I think they have to stick with that. They recruit like that, and I actually think they'll be an under team this year. It might shock some people.
You and I get together here, and we just talked hockey for almost 1.5 hours. So what I want to do is, and I know you got a busy Friday, what I want you to do very simply is throw something out there, whether it's the CFL, whether it's the NFL, whether it's the UFC, one game that you might have your eye on that the listeners and the viewers can go back on, and at least, we'll say, because when we come back next Friday, they'll be holding the winning ticket.
Well, for anybody tuning in on this, and this will, have a little bit of shelf life. First of all, I appreciate everybody for tuning in, and I appreciate you for having me on every Friday. This is going to be a big play for me this weekend. This is going to be on Monday, though, and it actually is Canadian Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving to anybody that's Canadian tuning into this. We have football, big football on Thanksgiving, just like you guys do in America. So there's some interesting bet on spots, and I've only gone against Ottawa once this year, and I lost when doing it, when backing Ottawa. And I've either made this rule now where it's either bet the over with their teams or bet against them. And I bet the over Wednesday night, cashed a ticket. And this is just a weird spot for them, Jeff, on Monday night, as they're on the road against Montreal, a motivated Montreal team. And they played Wednesday, they're playing Monday now. And last week they had a weird road spot as well. The CFL, it's a league that I love and I stick up for, but because they're competing with college football, competing with NFL, their schedule has been ridiculous, man. Like, it's been bad for the health of the players. I think it's been good for betting though. So we're going to take advantage of it. As far as that goes, we're going to look at Montreal minus the 8. That's only available at 1 or 2 shops right now. So wait till that opener comes out. You'll get it around minus 8.5, 9 probably. It's going to be a blowout. Thanksgiving, early afternoon blowout. I think that Ottawa, they're going to be okay down the stretch covering some spreads, but Montreal had a few lulls. They had a few games where they were throwing picks. Their defense wasn't looking great. And this is also a team that hasn't played great against Ottawa on the year. They've had one game where they put up a lot of points against Ottawa, but I feel like they need this. And sometimes you look at teams going into a game against really shitty teams, for lack of better words, and you have a letdown spot. They don't need that confidence boost. Montreal, off a really exciting win, needs to come in to their home game, and they need to host Ottawa and blow them out of the water because they cannot have a letdown spot against them, and I believe they will. So give me the minus 8 for the Alouettes for a nice play here on the show.
You can go to wt.buzz/AM. Promo code YouTube39 gets you 3 days of action for just $39.
Yes, sir.
They can follow you at Mcinnis Picks, at Wager Talk, at Sports Mayflower. Go to YouTube, Mayflower Sports, correct?
Yes, sir.
Subscribe there. Amazing information, content on a weekly basis. I can't thank you enough. Like I said, we could talk for hours,
Definitely.
and I know I would get killed by a million people on your side, not my side, your side. So we're blessed and honored to have you here for 35 minutes. Happy Thanksgiving on Monday. Wish you the best this weekend, and cash some tickets, Andrew.
Thanks so much, Jeff. And sorry if I was rambling too much about the NHL, but I'm just happy to have it back and super excited.
And listen, I can't wait. Like I said, the NHL and getting your thoughts, and we can go back and forth and have some great Habs and Bruin talk all season.
And we'll have some Saturday games. We'll be recording on Friday. We can look ahead to the Fridays because Friday usually has like lower amount of games, 2, 3, 4 games. So Saturday's always a huge slate. So maybe we'll get some look ahead plays going.
Absolutely. So for myself, Jeff Dawson at East Coast Sports Investors, from Andrew at Mcinnis Picks and Wager Talk, everyone have a blessed day and a better weekend. If you are wagering this weekend or tonight, always wager with your head, not your heart. If you have a problem, just pick up that phone. There's an 800 number there, and a lot of people out there available. So from myself and Andrew, have a great day, and we will see you next Friday.